Hey friends, it's Andy here, and in today's video I'm going to show you where and how I find and choose the right properties once I've decided where I'm going to buy. In this video we're going to have a look at properties in Bundaberg, and Bundaberg is a great semi-regional location in Queensland where we used to buy in the past. Now most of Bundaberg's growth for this growth cycle is likely already behind. However, who knows, this could be a good place to buy for some people out there. Cool. What I've done is I've searched for Bundaberg in realestate.com.au, and you can use realestate.com, you can use domain, you can use even off-market properties from relationships that you have established. However, this is just for entry level for anybody out there. You can do this today. You don't need to have built those relationships just to understand how to look at things, how to look at properties. Now, once you click search, you'll see the list option. I personally like the map option. Some people I work with prefer the list. I like the map because it's more location based, right? You can understand different pockets of the city. Maybe you are more focused on certain locations that are more desirable and you want to tell them apart. In the list, you might get the whole thing and all mixed up and you can't tell them apart as easily. Now, the first thing to understand is that within a city, there's, of course, different prices for different types of assets. And once you have gone through dozens, if not hundreds of properties in a location, you'll start to understand where the value lies. Then you can more easily see the value in a property. And what I'm going to do is just open up all the properties around a certain location and just, well, let's just land and just open them up in a different tab. And then you'll just go ahead and filter them out. Okay, we probably have enough. Okay, so now we would jump into shortlisting these properties, filtering them out, having the first level of due diligence and see which ones make the first cut or not. We're going to focus first on the ones that could be more growth focused. So let's say we are looking for a property to get the most growth out of it, right? And then we're going to see after that which other properties we would be considering if we were looking into cash flow, right? Okay, so we would go into the first property, this one right here. First thing we see is 4-bed, 2-bath, 4-car, huge land size, really high owner-occupier appeal, gorgeous house. The roof looks pretty new, 2 stories, plenty of car space. Of course, a bit of Photoshop here in the grass, but that's not a big deal. Great looking property, great shape. New carpets, new floors, new kitchen, tons of space, new bathroom, right? Great looking property. Now, the value is probably in the low 600s, so provided that you can get it at that price, it's good value, apparently. This probably landed in the low 600s anyway, so you probably buy it at market value. In terms of yield, it's not super strong, especially for being Queensland. The rent is probably around the 640 if you know the market a little bit, more or less, and that's about 5.3% yield. Okay, now that could be an amazing yield in some other areas, let's say in Western Australia, where holding costs are comparatively lower, so rates are lower, insurance is lower, etc. However, in Queensland, it's not an amazing yield. However, if cash flow is not what you're looking for, it might not be a problem. Now, the only problem I do see is it's close to all this green area, which are creeks and areas a bit lower in altitude, closer to that Burnett River. So what we do is we jump into Bundaberg's flood map, interactive flood map, and just to know that, unfortunately, there's not one site where you can see all cities in Australia. Every different city has their own flood maps. You access them from different websites in different ways. They're all completely different. Some are interactive, some are not. So you have to know where to look, right? In this particular case, well, what we do, first of all, click on flood area, and we look for that Newitt Drive, 33. And that's this property right here. So you can see that it is in a flood zone. And if you go to that last flood event, you get the image from that flood event, you can see that it flooded. Okay, so that is no bueno. So going back to the property, could not be a huge issue because at the end of the day, you're paying insurance. In some cities, that there has been a hailstorm, and most of the roofs in that city were just replaced by insurance. However, especially for growth-oriented properties where you're looking for that appreciation, it's not a great thing if in the small print of the property you're always going to have that label of flood zone. It is what it is. So probably a property that you would reject just by the flood zone thing and the fact that the yield is not amazing for being in Queensland. Okay, we're just going to close this one. Next property for our candidates in growth location, we have this property right here. Now, the first thing that you will notice is, oh my God, it looks a bit distressed. Maybe the roof is not in the best condition. However, you have to understand what's important and what's not. That would not be the first thing that I would notice about this property. It doesn't look that bad, right? The property itself, it's got a big shed at the back, a bit of damage here. So it's not in, honestly, it's not in the best condition, actually. And it does need a bit of a cosmetic reno. But that's not even the biggest issue. Why? Because if you get it for the correct price, let's say the value of this property is high 400s after a reno, that's not a big deal. It might work for you if you have the capital and it fits your strategy. The big problem is the location here, right? So I wouldn't even bother doing the numbers of this property. It's awful location. So we're talking about surrounded by commercial property all around. It's on a main road, busy road. Like, I wouldn't even touch this. Like, the only reason to even consider a location like this is if it's a pure cash flow asset. You already have the capital in your portfolio that you needed to create. All you need is cash flow. You don't care about capital growth. If this property makes sense in terms of numbers, you might want to consider, but I'm just not going to even run the numbers because I don't even think this is even a good cash flow property for that price. A single family house, just one tenancy. I don't think so. This is a reject for sure. Okay, this next one. Well, first thing we see, offers above 600 for 4-bed, 1-bath. Maybe not the best pricing right there. Maybe a little bit overpriced. It does have a brand new roof, which is good. Although, again, that doesn't make the value of the property. Location and size, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms is what makes the value of the property. Double shed at the back with side access. Looks good. Decent size block. Now, if we have a look at the condition of this property, what I'm seeing straight away is that things that are in bad condition, like carpets and stuff, it's just really easy to do. Like, what you want is a property that looks awful, but in reality, it's not too bad. It's an easy fix. What you don't want is structural issues or big problems. But if it's just like paints and carpets, that will scare away buyers, especially owner occupiers, and will allow you to get a good deal, right? You see, this, apart from the paint and the carpet, this property's in good shape. Look at that floor. That's hardwood. Kitchen looks good. You have a laundry down there. I think that's the laundry down there. A bit of cosmetic damage here. Laundry sink, but that's super cheap. A few $100s in Bunnings. More space here, tons of space. Same with the garage, like easy fix. Awful, disgusting linoleum floor, but that's really easy fix, right? Same with the exterior. The structural stuff looks pretty sound, and you got that double shed at the back. So, in terms of, and then you got Southside Central, which is a mall, a shopping center, pretty close. That's good. The street might be a bit busy, but who knows? Let's have a look at the road. Yeah, it's kind of a main road. So I wouldn't really consider this for growth purposes, although it's just one lane, which is not crazy. But it seems that it's a bit overpriced for what it is. So it will probably be a reject. Another thing that also probably helps me understand it's overpriced is the appraised yield. So if you have a look at, let me see what they say here. Returns expected to be $550 per week, maybe more. Okay, but at 550, we're talking about at best 4.8% yield. Probably more because offers above 600. So that tells you that it's probably a bit overpriced, not a great yield, sort of a main road. Great property though, and good location, but that would probably be a reject also. Now this one, let's have a look. 3-bed, 2-bath, offers above 450. Doesn't look bad in terms of pricing. 800 square meter block. That's pretty decent. Let's have a look at the location, which is probably the most important thing. Well, it is. Great location. I believe this is all residential. Yeah, all residential. That's a good part of the suburb. Now, the only obviously concern is that it's probably too close to that flood area. So we'll have a look at the flood map in a minute. But let's have a look at the property. Side access, double bay shed at the back. Now, even if it's in a flood location, it's a house on stumps. And let's have a look if the actual living space is upstairs or downstairs. Nice porch. Nice. You see little details like this light, like that's such an easy fix. You want as many of those as possible if they gonna scare away buyers. Looks great, honestly. Gorgeous living room, air conditioning. Yeah, all the bedrooms are really probably renovated. Looks great. Kitchen looks gorgeous. Look at that. Not that it matters at the end of the day, okay, but it's been taken care of, and the roof looks in pretty good nick also, and the grass and you can tell they've taken care of this property. Now, let's have a look at the flood map. Okay, that's 7 Wiper Street, so it's right on the fringe, right on the edge of the flood zone. Let's see where did the water get to in 2013. Nothing. So it didn't even get to the property. But anyway, even if it did a little bit, it's on stumps. So worst case scenario, it affects maybe whatever's on like downstairs, garage, laundry. Like usually those kind of things are not a huge deal if you think about it. And if they get damaged, that's going to be covered by insurance. Okay. So in my opinion, I wouldn't be at all worried about this being right on the edge of a flood location, of a flood area. This actually looks like a great candidate. Of course, you have to do a CMA, a comparative market analysis. You'll have to see what's the actual price you can get this property for and what's the value proposition, what's the value that you think this property has. But looks good. Checks all the boxes on a surface level. This would go into due diligence level 2. Okay. Next property and the last one in our, let's say, growth hunt. And this is a 5-bed, 1-bath, around 480, which for a 5-bedroom is a pretty good price, although it's only 1 bath. Let's have a look. Well, let's have a look at the location first. The other property was somewhere around here, so pretty close. Also a good residential location, also close to that flood zone. So let's have a look. Okay, so here it is. Number 9, partially affected, partially in the flood zone. And in the last flood event, it probably the front yard got flooded. Honestly, who knows? Doesn't seem like too big of a deal. But of course it does affect in the pros and cons of buying this property, right? This is not a property that is on stumps from memory. Let's see. Correct. So I would probably be more careful with this property. Probably would reject it due to being in a flood zone. However, let's have a look. Looks in, of course, a bit of Photoshop too. Looks in pretty good nick. Again, the location is really good. Great kitchen. Okay, it's a property that's in great shape. Okay, so in terms of value, probably you'll have to do a CMA, but probably good value. But of course, flood zone. So this would probably go into the maybe category. But let's just reject it for now. Cool. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at cash flow properties. We're going to start with some of these properties here. This property is already under offer, but offers above 340 is one unit in a bigger complex. Usually I don't love these. I would only consider these type of properties in a bigger complex if you really can't afford anything with a bit more independence. These usually have body corporate fees apart from strata fees and all that, and you don't have obviously absolute control of what happens in the community and in your property, etc. Right? But if your budget only allows you to buy this type of properties, this could be a good option. Now, is it a good option? Well, value probably around the 350s. You probably won't get it for less than 350 anyway. Let's say you get it for that. Let's have a look at rental returns if they say anything. You see you got body corporate fees here, 600 quarterly. That is 2,500 a year. Rent is probably going to be somewhere around the 460, which means a 6.8% yield. I would personally wouldn't bother, but it could work for some people out there. Okay, so next property, let's have a look. Okay, looks pretty large property. Roof is probably not in the best condition. Let's have a look at the location. Really close to that creek there, so probably flood prone. The street looks like a main road, probably a bit busy. So we have here old roof, main road, probably flood prone. It looks like a few strikes already on this property. Let's have a look more. Again, on stump, so it's not the end of the world. However, if technically on paper it's flood prone, that's going to affect on the desirability of the property. However, if you're buying this property purely from a cash flow perspective, you might not care so much about the future desirability, So if the cash flow makes sense, this could work. Okay, looks like, let me see. It's a different kitchen. Looks like it's got a few kitchens, so it might be a multiple tenancy. Let's have a look. Triplex. Okay. 1,050 per week. 9.1% return. So let's do the numbers. So 150 per week. And let's say you get it for around 600,000. That's, so 9.1%. Okay. If that's the case, it's a great yield. So, and from the looks of it, if all the units are council approved and they're not illegal and you are able to advertise as different units and stuff, it could work for some people. I would only recommend this for people that already have the capital because you might not get a lot of growth, and actually you might be overpaying for this, because if you assess the value as a house, right, because it's a modification, this is a triplex, but it was not meant to be a triplex. Maybe it's a bit overpriced, but it is getting a really good rental yield. So if cash flow is all you want, provided the holding costs are reasonable and all that. Might be a good play for some people. It might be a good cash flow play, but I wouldn't expect a whole bunch of growth from this property. Cool. What else we got? Another unit in a complex. Again, for that price in location, 2 bed, 1 bath. Who knows? You might not get the best yield. Let's have a look. Obviously, it's going to look good. It's all shared common areas, which is not the best, but hey, it's all, again, if this is all your budget can afford, what else are you going to do, right? It could be great for someone out there. Let's have a look at location. Yep, looks good. Body corporate, of course. Although that's not much. It's pretty cheap. And $375 per week. Probably could get a bit more than that for that type of property. 2 bed, 1 bath in that area. Probably around the 430. But still, in that case, this would be less than a 6% yield for a cash flow property. Not great, especially in Queensland. I wouldn't really consider this. I wouldn't consider this for growth. Maybe for a growth asset. A growth asset for people that don't have a really big budget, maybe, but not as a cash flow option. So I'm going to reject. Now, this one's very interesting. One unit at 225. Okay. This could be interesting because, of course, when we're talking about cash flow, we're looking at yields, and the cheaper the price, the higher the yield, right? Rent can only get so cheap. So this property won't rent for much less than the other 2 bedroom one that we saw. Okay. So when we're talking about that much cheaper, this could be interesting. Okay. So let's have a look at the property. Really nice front yard, lock-up garage. Looks in pretty good property. Of course, let me see how many other properties in the complex. Five units. Of course, is going to have body corporate, which again is going to eat up a bit of your profits, but that could be fine. Looks pretty good, actually. This could really work depending on the yield, especially for the people that want to get in a good location and they have a low budget. 225 is a really, really good, affordable entry level, Let's have a look at, doesn't say the appraised rent or the current rent, but I can tell you probably this would rent for at least $350, potentially more, potentially 380. So at least we're talking about an 8% yield, which could be really interesting for a lot of people out there. Let's say you are either looking for a growth property and you don't have the budget, or you're looking for a cash flow property and you already have a lot of capital, but you have gotten into a position where you have low borrowing capacity and you don't really need that capital growth anymore, but you want to keep buying and buy good cash flow properties. This might work for you. I'm going to keep it there. This is a good option. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. I believe is the last one of our unit / single family cash flow properties. And let's have a look. So offers about $350 for 4-bedder. That is a good price. Okay. The roof seems like it's recently replaced. Let's have a look. Okay. Okay, seems like there's a granny flat at the back or something. Now, okay, so it looks like there's some sort of power station or substation right in front. That's a big red flag, especially for growth. Like, people are not going to be really interested in buying that from you in the future. The road it looks like a main road, pretty busy. It's got public parking at the front, and then you got to see how the level here drops, and that's probably going to get flooded. Like, if I were to guess, with the river there, that's probably going to get flooded in the next flood. So in terms of location, this is probably an immediate reject, but let's have a look. I mean, the actual property looks good. And in terms of the flood, maybe it's not a problem because all the living area is elevated. It's not a huge deal. It's not a huge deal if the laundry gets flooded. But again, resaleability, of course, is going to be affected. That looks like the granny flat, actually. I mean, it's a nice property. There's no doubt about it. But location is pretty awful. So 3 strikes on location. I would probably reject. 4-bedroom. This probably gets a good, if it's a granny flat plus the property, at least $500 per week, maybe more, 7.5% yield or higher. So in terms of cash flow property, it's a good candidate, but the location is just pretty awful. So I'm gonna bin it. What's next? So now we are getting into the multifamily, so big blocks of units in this location. Let's say you are shopping for more expensive, bigger cash flow properties. So this property offers over 850. Okay. 8-bed, 4-bath. That's probably 4 units, 2-bedroom each. Let's have a look at the floor plan. 1, 2, 3, 4 living rooms, 4 yeah, it looks like 4 units. Total return 1,360. Tenanted for 350, 330, and 340. So probably you can rent at least for 350 each. That would be a $1,400 weekly rental return. We are talking about a yield above 8%, if not 8.5%. If you secure it just slightly over 850, that is pretty good. This is basically the kind of thing you would be looking for if you are looking for a cash flow property at this budget. Okay, like a bit over 220,000 a piece for each unit. That's a good price, and you control the whole building. Council rates 8,000 per annum. That's pretty reasonable for the price. That also tells me that it's on one title, which then means that you have a potential value add in the future by doing a strata subdivision and then selling them separately. Now, location. The only thing that could knock this on the head is if it's affected by flood. So let's have a look. Okay, well then, yeah, that property is totally affected by flood. That would probably be enough to reject this property, especially because it's a brick property on the ground floor. So this will get flooded if the city of Bundaberg gets flooded. Again, maybe if you are an experienced investor and you are willing to take the risk and you can get this for a good price and you know the market, you know that you can get more than this, maybe you end up with a 9% yield or more. This might be a good option. Why? If it gets flooded, you're properly insured, you might even get a free reno. Who knows, right? If you have the stomach for that, then that might work for you. Again, why? Because we're not talking about a growth property. We're talking about a pure cash flow property. Numbers have to make sense, and you have to be savvy and experienced enough and sophisticated enough to make those decisions. Cool. I'm going to reject it, though. What else we got? We got another block, 12 bedrooms, could be 4 to 8 units. Now, if it's 4 units, that's probably expensive as hell. But let's have a look. Okay, 4 units. Like, I would probably just walk away from this. You see the rental returns really similar to that other unit block that we just saw. Same rent per unit, but it's almost double the price. So I would probably just walk away from this one from a yield perspective. You're not buying this property for capital growth. You're buying this for cash flow because of the nature of the property. That would be enough for me to reject it. And let's have a look at the last one. Okay, we have a duplex here. Each unit is 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 car. Okay, let's have a look at the location right next to that creek, most likely flood prone. Okay, took me a while, but I found it. That's the property right there. Definitely in a flood zone. However, let's have a look more because 2 units, 350 per unit. Again, similar. That's kind of where the market is at. Apparently appraised at 800 per week, so 400 a piece. That means that if we can get it for 520, we're talking about an 8% yield, which is really decent. Okay, offers above 500, 520 at 800 per week is an 8% yield. Now let's have a look at the property. Okay, looks in really good condition. Now, obviously, well, that's the ground floor. That is the laundry room, and you can see that probably was flooded, right? But we're talking it's best block concrete floors. Yes, that's damaged, but you can just repaint it or do whatever with that floor. That's not a big issue. The kitchen is not on ground level. As you can see, the living room is not either. It's just the laundries, honestly. And Block is quite resistant. You got the concrete floor there. Honestly, I wouldn't be super concerned about the flood. Yes, this most likely got flooded. Whatever damage probably was covered by insurance, so I wouldn't be too concerned. You can just repaint this and wait until the next flood. It could be decades from now. So, this is very interesting also. So, another thing that you can do here, apart from just doing a small cosmetic reno in the house and leaving it in pretty good nick, is and this is a value add that I love doing, is dividing the backyard. Why? First of all, now both tenants have a common backyard. Usually people don't like that. They don't have privacy. They're not going to use the backyard. It's just not ideal for them. So the appeal of these units as rentals is lower. But if you put a cheap, like timber or even some sort of plastic fence through the middle of the backyard, you're going to do two things. You're going to improve the appeal of the property, of each one of the units as rentals, but also you're going to give responsibility of the backyard and the landscaping to each one of the units of the tenants individually. Because as the law states right now, you are responsible for mowing that lawn. And that could be quite a bit of an extra cost after the course of a year, because you have to do that regularly. Why are you responsible? Because it's common area. There's no privacy. There's no intimacy. You are the one responsible. As soon as you put up a fence here, the tenants are responsible for doing that. Not only it's more appealing from a rental perspective, but it's also cheaper because you don't have to bear with the cost of landscaping. So I love when duplexes or multifamily properties come like this, because it's a really simple value add. And obviously another value add, if it's not strata subdivided, if it's all in one title, also that's another value add. You can do the paperwork, get it in two titles, and that immediately increases the value of the property, usually, because you can sell them for more separately compared to the price you can sell the whole duplex for, usually. Another thing to consider is as soon as you strata subdivide a unit block, your council rates are going to be charged individually instead of as a whole. So that usually you end up paying more when it's subdivided. So usually, if you wanted to subdivide a property and you're going to do it as a value add, do it right before selling. There's no point of doing it as soon as you buy the property if you're going to keep it as rental, because your costs are going to increase. Cool. Honestly, this property, apart from being flood prone, which then could probably mean that I would bin it. Apart from that, it's a great opportunity with a few value adds and the numbers look pretty good. Okay, so if you liked this video, please like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram. I'll leave my handle down here. And if you have any suggestions for videos or you want me to make a video about anything specific, let me know. Bye-bye.